Ministers, Excellencies, it's really a great pleasure to welcome all of you here. We highly value the partnership with the Indo-Pacific partners of NATO, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea and Japan. And in a more dangerous and unpredictable world, it is even more obvious that security is not regional, security is global. What happens in your region, what happens in the Indo-Pacific matters for Europe, and what happens in Europe matters for you. And I think the war in Ukraine demonstrates this very clearly with its global ramifications. The fact that we also see that China and Russia are standing closer together makes it just even more important that we are standing together as partners, NATO allies, and you as four highly valued partners. So I welcome this opportunity to meet with you. I also welcome the fact that last year was the first time ever the heads of state and government from your countries participated in a NATO summit. And they are all invited again to the summit in Vilnius in July this year, and that will further strengthen our partnership and the way we can work together. So I look forward to our meeting now, and then I look forward to you participating in the meeting with all the now 31 ministers, because yesterday we went from 30 to 31 allies. And then soon also Sweden will join, and then we are 32. So again, welcome. It's a great honor and pleasure to meet with you, and then we can continue. Thank you.
I'm tempted to say this is maybe the one thing we can thank Mr. Putin for, because he once again here has precipitated something he claims to want to prevent by Russia's aggression, causing many countries to believe that they have to do more to look out for their own defense and to make sure that they could deter possible Russian aggression going forward. But I think we're going to be thrilled to have Finland as the 31st member of this alliance. So this is an important day. I think it has a profound impact in Asia, for example. Everyone is watching to see how we and the world responds to this aggression, and they'll draw their lessons from it. One of the reasons that there are so many partners involved in this from Asia is precisely because, even though this is happening half a world away, they see the stakes for them. One of the leading countries in our coalition to support Ukraine is Japan. South Korea is playing an important role. Australia is too. And they see the stakes. I think if China is looking at this, and they are looking at it very carefully, they will draw lessons for how the world comes together, or doesn't, to stand up to this aggression.
In an interview, President Trump said of NATO,
and we wouldn't no longer be ponying up all the money that, by the way, Western Europe is not doing their fair share.
What's unfair, and you and I have had this conversation, is that we're up to almost $150 billion, and Europe's at $24 billion. Now, it's the same thing with NATO. Don't forget, I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. My first meeting at NATO, I was just there, never did this before. I'm sitting with all these presidents and prime ministers, nice guys, 28 countries, and I'm looking at the charts. I say, could I see who's delinquent, because they're supposed to pay? And they say, what do you mean by delinquent? They said, that's a real estate term. When you don't pay your rent, you're delinquent. Could I please see who has not paid? And of the 28 countries, 20 were not paid. They weren't paying. Mm-hmm. And I said, you have to pay. And if you don't pay, I'm not going to protect you. And the head of a very important country stood up and said, who was delinquent, said, could I ask you, if we don't, what you're saying, if Russia attacks us and we aren't paid up, you're not going to protect us? I said, that's exactly what I mean.
Well, the stars are starting to align. Today, Ukrainian President Zelensky is now admitting and doubling down on this, admitting that Ukraine is now officially out of bullets. Kind of a big thing in war when you don't have bullets. So this is NATO 100%. Now they're boxed into a corner, right? They're out of ammunition. They don't have any weapons. So what is NATO supposed to do now? They're screwed.
Zelensky said he was afraid that if the U.S. president was replaced, aid to Ukraine would stop. At the end of March, Zelensky himself admitted to himself that the situation was difficult. Did a series of moves in early April eliminate that concern?
I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. And it will take me no longer than one day.
Зустрівся із делегацією американських конгресменів. Подякував за незмінно потужну допомогу Америки, усіх від президента Байдена, команди Білого дому до обох палат Конгресу і усієї системи американської сили. Говорили, звичайно, про активні дії України, звичайно, про нашу спільну перемогу. Зустрівся із Майком Помпео, екс-очільником Держдепу США. Дякую усім, хто допомагає нам захищати свободу. Дякую сьогодні особливо Данії і Норвегії за ініціативу урядів щодо передач нашим воїнам додаткової партії артилерійських снарядів. Це дуже вчасно і корисно. Щодня стаємо міцніше, щодня наближаємо день, коли держава-терорист відповідатиме. Слава усім, хто зараз в бою заради України. Вічна і світла пам'ять усім, хто віддав своє життя за Україну. Слава Україні!
I reported on Mike Pompeo's visit to Kiev in a previous video. According to Zelensky's statement by the Ukrainian presidential office, the meeting took place on April 3rd, and Pompeo was apparently leading a delegation of U.S. lawmakers. The specific name of the senator is unknown at this time, but from this video circulating on Twitter, it appears that it is being kept as a record of the event, not merely for news purposes. So far we have not been able to find it on YouTube in Japan. Pompeo promised Ukraine permanent U.S. financial and arms support until the end of the war. He also suggests seeking assistance not only from Europe but from other countries as well. Here are Pompeo's comments as seen in that article.
We deterred Vladimir Putin from taking any part of Europe for 4 years. I can say this, he watched what happened in the summer of 2021 in Afghanistan, where he had 13 Americans killed and left Americans behind. You had the President of the United States say that a minor incursion might be okay. Right? These are the kinds of things that signal to authoritarian leaders like Vladimir Putin that this might be the moment. And then he did it.
These comments seem critical of the Biden administration's approach. Fox News reported this just hours before President Trump entered the New York courtroom. Macron's visit to China was not supposed to be about the Ukraine war peace plan if von der Leyen was accompanying him. President Trump's forced arrest could be said to have cut off any possibility of early ceasefire negotiations. Is forgiveness for Japan's purchase of Russian energy in exchange for a demand for more support for Ukraine? What is the position of NATO partner countries? Does the Japanese government confirm that it is an Article 5 country on par with member countries? I hope that in the event of an actual contingency, they will not be removed from the latter for not being an official member. The situation in Ukraine today is similar, though. Russia must not forget that it was cut off from diplomatic negotiations for that reason before the invasion last February.